As we continue to take steps towards becoming more conscious, we must continue to question within as to who it is we are choosing to be and how our simple actions can literally change the world. This is Skull Babylon, and you're about to listen to another inspirational episode of Paradigm Shift Radio. Have you thought about eating less meat and changing your diet? Are you looking for further reasons and motivation to do so? Then perhaps this episode will assist you in taking those steps for yourself as we welcome on our guest, Tim Shieff, world-renowned professional freerunner and vegan. Along with our good friend Rain, we discuss the moral, health, and spiritual benefits we can all gain by becoming more aware of what it is we are bringing into our body. Tim demonstrates exceptional acts of freedom and fearlessness through his freerunning skills and explains how the messages he is passionate about promoting through his sport go hand in hand with the choices he makes to be vegan. Paradigm Shift Radio is a weekly interactive community show to help assist in the evolution of consciousness. Like the show at facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Radio, get involved, and explore more consciousness shifting media available through the main website at ParadigmShiftCentral.com. Help share this episode further if it inspires you. Go climb a tree, eat some fruit, and enjoy the flow. Take a breath. Close your eyes. And now imagine, visualize with your mind's eye. You're barefoot, standing in the grass, the cool earth under your feet, connecting you to the electrical energy of your surroundings. You can feel the air on your skin. Take another breath as it fills your lungs. Now, before you is a playground, a concrete jungle of both man-made structures and natural environments, a never-ending slide for your own excitement. Take off moving forward with a slight jog and a spring in your step as you begin to move. Your body becomes lighter. In the midst of your path is a rail at waist height. Without losing speed, you vault over the rail, gaining momentum. Your legs in front of you, you stride, speed, a wall to your right, side jump off the wall. You launch out over to the side, and you see in front of you a flight of stairs, elevated, you jump, vault onto the concrete, landing. You see a drop ahead of you, and below it, the nice green grass. 3 steps until you hit the edge. With no time to think, you just let the momentum continue through you. 1 step away, you swing your dominant foot diagonally in front of you as you kick the moon and allow the momentum of your body to lift you up into the air around your central mass. You tuck your arms, adding dynamic momentum to your rotation. The world is a blur as your body pierces the air. Contact. You feel the ground underneath you as you expel the additional momentum into a simple shoulder roll on the grass. You spring up and out of it, still running. You see a gap, too far to clear, but short enough to cat leap. Maintaining your speed, letting go of fear, you time your ability to displace your momentum forward as your foot pushes away from the edge. Silence as you hang in the air, free, uninhibited, unrestrained, like nothing else. Without even blinking, and with your arms in front of you and your feet and your hands make contact to the surface of the wall, fingers gripped around the edge, you push yourself off and over and onto the elevated surface. You step back into your speed, multiple rails in front of you. You dash vault the first and connect a combo of twists and palm spins as you move your way amongst the rails like water flowing down a riverbed. Flowing, you step away from the rails and your eyes make contact with another drop in the distance. As you time your steps, you throw your momentum in front of you as you kick your foot and it reaches forwards. You tuck your knees as your body begins to rotate, bringing you into a full gainer. You remain suspended in air for a second before gravity brings you back down. Body fully rotated, eyes level to the horizon. Your feet land in the grass. Another simple roll to expel the additional energy. You take momentum. Take a few more steps forward and allow yourself to come to a standing still. Your feet in the grass. You take another breath. Feel the air fill your lungs. Remind yourself what it feels like to be alive. To conquer the obstacles in your way through your creative expression. To become stronger in doing so. To find your own freedom. This is Skull Babylon, aka Brendon Wolfshield Culleton, aka Skull the Wolf, and you are tuned in for another awesome, inspirational, entertaining, and educational episode of Paradigm Shift Radio. First of all, big shout out to everybody who is joining us in the live chat, and of course, please continue to boost the show, and we'll get really rolling, so to speak, into things within the next couple moments as we bring on our guest, Tim Shieff, as well as our buddy Rain, who has been on multiple episodes in the past. So we're just waiting for Rain to show up in the queue, and before we bring him on, I'm just going to give a little introduction as to what Paradigm Shift Radio is. Paradigm Shift Radio is this project that we've been doing for the past year that is part of a bigger project, which is about communities all across the world who are working together to help bring more consciousness into this place that we live in, into this reality, into our communities. And that means just opening yourself up to ideas that we don't usually get a chance to talk about commonly within regular public spheres. So Paradigm Shift Radio is about creating a space, a digital space, for us to practice having conversation about some of the things that we don't usually get a chance to talk about. So ParadigmShiftCentral.com is the main website, and I'll post a link for that again into the live chat. And you can find a whole bunch of new updates at the Paradigm Shift Central website, including all the videos that I've been doing over the past 5 years to help shift consciousness, elevate consciousness, to help inspire people. And some of those videos actually included some like parkour themed videos of my own, which you can find in there as well. So again, if you want to add me personally on Facebook, absolutely feel free to do so. YouTube.com/SkullBabylon, and Facebook is Facebook.com/SkullBabylon. So again, guys, please continue to share the show, and we're going to be bringing Tim and Rain onto the episode as we really get moving with things here and develop a flow. So thank you everyone for tuning in to Paradigm Shift Radio, and of course Facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Radio is the place where you want to go. And I will just mention this now, if you are looking to download MP3s of the episodes through the new updates in the website, go to ParadigmShiftCentral.com/PSR, and you can find all the episodes there with MP3 links, which makes it extra convenient for you to take Paradigm Shift Radio wherever you need to go. So there you go, guys. All right, so with that said, I'm going to bring Rain onto Paradigm Shift Radio, and then we'll bring Tim slightly after. So Rain, if you're ready, I'm going to bring you live onto Paradigm Shift Radio.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
Rain. Yeah, sounds okay, man. Awesome. All right, Rain, welcome back to Paradigm Shift Radio. So the reason why you're here is because you are the middleman as to how Tim ended up being here, and that was through the invitation that I put out for him after I saw that you guys ran into each other at the Woodstock Fruit Festival. So we'll be talking about that in the next moment. So without further ado, we're going to bring professional freerunner and vegan Tim Shieff, a.k.a. Livewire, here on the Paradigm Shift Radio. Here we go. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
There we go. Awesome.
There we go.
Nice. We can hear you. Perfect. All right. So Tim, thank you for being here. This is something I'm actually really excited about. I mean, I mentioned just in the top of the show for myself, I'm a big proponent of healthy body, mind, and spirit. And without a doubt, Tim, you are one of the top athletes of this generation, of this time that we live in, and that's a big thanks to the YouTube generation and the fact that you've been able to share your progression over the years. So we'll get into the parkour element of it briefly, but before we do that, without really needing to dictate and invite people to talk in, this is really more of a conversation circle than it is an interview. Rain and Tim, tell me a little bit about how you guys ran into each other and what that was like.
We first met actually. I was out on a paddleboard, and I saw Raini filming with a GoPro on his paddleboard. You were filming a girl doing some yoga moves on the paddleboard, and I went over, and I wanted to join in, and I tried to do a handstand on the paddleboard, and he's like, "Oh, let me film that," and we filmed that, and then I tried, because he got the camera, I thought I'd try a backflip, and it took a couple of attempts, but eventually I landed a backflip on the paddleboard, and that was the first time we met, and I remember his name really stood out as well. And then, and then we met later on, around the campfire in the evening. But I didn't recognize you because your hair wasn't wet, because you got long blonde hair. And then you said your name, and I remembered straight away. And I was like, "Oh, cool!" And you were filming, and you had all your camera gear. You had glide cams and a big Canon with like fancy lenses and things. And I was like, "This is the guy." Because what surprised me about the whole event was it's such an amazing movement of positive people trying to make a positive difference in the world, and yet no one was really there documenting it at a high standard. Everywhere I go these days, I see so many people with Canons, and everyone's trying to be a filmmaker, but no one was there, which in a way is really cool, because again, I often document the things I'm up to, but I just wanted to let go at that event and actually just enjoy it and not worry about trying to document it and share it with other people. I just wanted to experience it. It was kind of a holiday for me. But to see Raini was there, I was like, this is a guy with a legit equipment that's going to film it and make it look good, you know. And then we did an interview, and I did quite a few interviews while I was there with all the people that are bloggers and raw vegan bloggers and that. But Raini's was the best one for me. Whatever it was, there was a good energy at the time with the questions he asked, but I felt freer, and I was able to get my words across in a good manner with his interview rather than in the other ones, like more so.
I'm glad to hear that, and you know, even just thinking about like the law of attraction, if you want to refer to it as that, it's awesome. It's awesome, and it's no surprise the fact that you guys did click, the fact that you were both there. So Raini, man, props for you for being there ahead of time, because I remember even on Facebook we were talking, and you were telling me that you were going there, and I knew you had all your equipment, but this is a pleasant surprise that Tim was there. So so first of all, www.thewoodstockfruitfestival.com is what you want to check out. But just in terms of promoting what it was that was happening there over those few days, Raini, tell us, what is the Woodstock Fruit Festival and why should people care?
Well, the Woodstock Fruit Festival this year was the third year of very health conscious, probably some of the fittest and most health conscious people in the world getting together. Every year it nearly doubles. This year was about 600 people plus volunteers, so possibly near 700 people. And it is just heaven on earth, honestly. It's what I aspire to see for the rest of my life. It's just, there's no trash talking, there's no negativity. Everybody's just loving each other, eating fruits and vegetables, running around, having a good time like they're 5 years old. It's just, it's beautiful.
Yeah, definitely, and that's a big discussion topic that we'll be getting into tonight, and I think that's really just, let's get right into it, is this idea of more and more people who are making the choices through people helping them, through videos that they're seeing on the internet, to become more conscious of what it is that we're putting in our body, and just taking more responsibility for what it is that we're supporting in this day and age, especially through the food that we're buying and where it's coming from. So I would like to think that through this episode, because this has happened in the past, I've had direct feedback about this, is that through previous discussions related to veganism and vegetarianism, people listening to the show have actually said, you know what, I think this is something I'm going to do. I'm going to embody within myself. I'm going to take that step forward to start living a more conscious, healthy lifestyle, and starting it through the food, or continuing it through the food that I eat. So Tim, you yourself, you're I said at the top of the show, and other people have sort of joked about this as well, like within the title we have professional freerunner / vegan, but then people are like, wait, is he a professional vegan? Like, is that such a thing? But if anybody were to be a professional vegan, I think you are in line with that, with the, because a big part of being professional vegan would be the consistency. And so tell me, Tim, how long have you been vegan, and what was it initially that caught your attention towards making that decision for yourself?
Do you know what, for me, I've only been vegan for a year, but the vegan community is so welcoming, and it seems that when any athlete chooses or begins to understand the vegan path, the vegan community all seem to get a bit excited, and I've done so many interviews with so many amazing, humble blogs and people that have really welcomed me. It's very loving community, and it makes it even more seem like the right thing to be doing, you know. But for me, it started with I actually read an Eckhart Tolle book a few years ago now, that really looked into the ego and our actions and everything like that, and that began me on the path. And then I saw a Gary Yourofsky video 1 year ago now, so years later after that, which was about veganism. And I always thought my whole life, I was a compassionate person. I was fairly loving and kind. But it really took me to look into my own everyday actions that I make at home, of every meal that I eat. I always would if I trod on a snail, I'd feel really guilty that I trod on the snail, and I'd feel really bad for it for 5-10 minutes. And then I'd go inside and I'd make a chicken sandwich or something, you know. And it was a complete disconnection, and it wasn't my fault. And that's the thing, is it's not anyone's fault. This is the way society's raised us, that it's just meat to us. It's just another meal. It's fuel. It's protein. It's all these myths that are so common knowledge that are really ingrained in because you can explain this to people and they say they understand it, but then they'll continue to eat meat. So that it's one level thing to understand it, but it's another thing to live it because of how programmed it is into us that we need meat to survive and that we should do it. Whereas for me, I think meat is it was a survival thing at one point. It's very important in history of humankind that we ate meat. It was an important chapter for us, but moving forward into a conscious chapter, which is the next one, it's not important at all, and it's not relevant, and it's part of the step is to be aware of these actions, and that eating meat is not needed for us we can thrive without meat in our diet, and that's the most important thing. If we're thriving without it, why would we ever need it? Our decision, if you, like I said in the interview with Raini, if you love yourself and you're happy, then the choice of a meal shouldn't affect that happiness. And if you can't have meat for a meal and you get upset at that, then there's something else wrong there, and there's something else you need to work on. That's not that's a different issue that you've got, that you can't be happy if you don't have meat in a meal. And so for me, it was getting over that hurdle to begin with, and now it gets easier really quickly. Once you understand that, it becomes pretty simple.
Yeah. So exactly within the title of this episode, the theme of this episode, questioning within, that is something, like you're saying, Tim, that we really do just have to consciously take the time to step back and sort of observe what our programming is in the first place. Because I agree, absolutely. A lot of people, they just look at food as food, and it just, if it's in front of them, then they'll go with it. But yes, let's pass it over to Rain. And Rain, in themes with questioning within, what is there that choosing to be veganism means within the bigger picture, so to speak?
Well, if we want to talk about the way the animals are raised, it is really affecting. It is the biggest effect on our environment, and whether it's fishing or cattle, livestock of any kind, it's destroying the environment quicker than any other practice that we do, quicker than cars, quicker than drilling for oil, quicker than anything. It's deforesting, it's desertifying everything, and using up all of our resources. I mean, we give nearly half of all the food that we create to animals, while there are something like 27,000 people dying every day from starvation. And outwardly it is huge. Inwardly it's huge as well. But what we choose to do to ourselves is, it's our own choice. But once it's brought upon another being, it is not personal anymore. You're ruining the life of not only one animal, but that grain that you're feeding to that animal is not going to a starving child. And so it's huge. It's immeasurable, really.
Yeah, a big thing that I sort of like to put some focus on in terms of this choice to go veganism, or to go vegetarian, because just I guess to clarify, you guys just correct me if I'm wrong here, but like the difference between being vegetarian and being vegan means that you don't eat cheese and things like that as well, right? Is there anything more to it?
Yeah.
No animal products, not only just a diet, it's trying to get away
anything
from
that comes
leather, suede, anything. Yeah.
Oh yeah, true. Okay, yeah. So there might be like vegetarians out there wearing leather jackets and just like what, like.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is, that's the next step of questioning within. It's the first step is, if the meal's in front of your face, you know whether or not it's got meat on it. Like, it's clear whether it's an animal, whether it was an animal or not, or whether it was an animal product. For me, I think the most important step is vegetarian before vegan. But once you understand vegetarianism, it's not too hard to grasp veganism, and it's just getting over the addiction to cheese and foods like that, because it really is an addiction. It is. Yeah, really. Cheese. Don't get me wrong. Cheese is absolutely delicious. Tastes great, but it's treatment of the animals, and it's not healthy. You get allergens, you get skin problems. I have so many friends that quit dairy, and they had really spotty skin, and they quit dairy and it all cleared up, and they stayed with the meat and then eventually they realise they've stopped the meat as well. But the next step after you look at what's on your plate is looking what's on your back, like you said, with a leather jacket. But it's a harder chapter. That today I just spent almost $200 on hemp clothes because yesterday someone said something about cotton was bad. And that, I mean, for me, I'm lucky to be in a position where I can do that and not worry too much. And it was kind of spontaneous, but the opportunity came and I did that. And I've got to start living what I believe, but it is a much longer. The simplest journey is the daily choice of what you eat, and then beyond that, it takes it's a bigger chapter. But veganism for me is that initial thing of what you're putting in your body, the nutrition, the physical nutrition you're putting in your body, and then it should go beyond that to the the mental nutrition, the nutrition of the TV that you're watching and the YouTube videos you're watching and the music you're listening to.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've used the term in the past, like our spiritual diet, and to use that term loosely, whatever spirituality is for you. But yeah, just being extra mindful of whatever it is that we're consciously choosing to bring into our body when there is that choice between doing this or doing that. And it was really interesting because for myself, my sister was vegetarian growing up, so I was always around it, but it really wasn't until just within the last couple of years that I started to become more conscious of, like we said, more conscious of what we're putting in our body, and moving towards more the moral ethics behind being a vegetarian. But it was just interesting because even yesterday in the evening, I was going out for food, and I opened up my fridge, and there's this thing in there, and it's stir fry of rice, vegetables, and chicken. And then I'm just looking at it, and then this is my actual brain process. This is just what my brain did. I went through this process where I was oh man, this has chicken in it. I can't eat it because I'm consciously not choosing to eat chicken within this time frame. And then I was wait a sec. And then a minute later, I was wait a second. I can just eat the stir fry and then not put the chicken in my mouth. Just bring out a portion that doesn't have chicken included in it. Just because chicken's there within that dish doesn't literally mean that it has to go in my body. It was just such a peculiar thing for my brain to think that even because it was right next to the rice meant that I had to eat it as that meal, or something like that. What I was going to say, because I think a key thing with why people should consider this path towards going vegetarian is because in doing so, it in itself is a stance. It's a stance to say I'm choosing not to support the the mistreatment of other beings, other non-human people is kind of a term we can keep in mind. And sorry, go ahead, jump in, guys, because I know that's a key thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's keeping your ideals. A lot of people have said, they agree, but I'm not going to make a difference, and the animal's already dead because they killed it for my meal. And it's absolutely the wrong way to look at it. Like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. And if you can't be strong, how can you ever expect other people to be strong around you? And this is really the key thing, is taking control of your own life. And once you take control, you see so much beauty in the world and so many things open up that you didn't realize was possible. The world changes around you. And as soon as I turn towards the vegan pattern, the word vegan is such a trigger word for some people, and I hate using it over and over again. But when I turn in this direction of the dietary change, it opened up a whole new chapter of my life with such loving people and surrounded me with these new people that come in through synchronicities and these seemingly random coincidences, which, again, part of spirituality, you realize coincidence does not exist. These chance meetings have led to meet me some amazing people that have helped move my life forward. And as you called me a professional vegan earlier, and that's the first time that's really been said, but for me, that's really the direction. That's really a good direction I want to go in. Because parkour was my passion, but it became my job. And once it becomes your job, it takes away a bit of that purity from it. Whereas the veganism became my hobby, and that was what I started to enjoy more because it benefited me in so many ways, like mentally and physically as well. That was the direction I chose to go in. Like I say, you have to stick up for your ideals, and people say, I'm not going to make a difference if I have it or don't, and that's really the wrong way to look at it. And since I've made this change, so many people around me have become aware as well, and it's given them the strength to do it. And in not eating the meat, you become a stronger and more in tune human being, less programmable by society, and you become your own person again, and then you become a stronger person in so many other ways that you can then go forth, and help the world be a more loving place, and that's the end goal.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Rain, I'm just going to throw it over to you in a second, but yeah, I mean, if people are talking about control mechanisms and like unplugging from the matrix. If you want to unplug yourself from the matrix, start out by looking at your diet and considering the route of going vegetarianism. And yeah, there's some really key things that I want to even just hit upon, but we got some time to go over it. Even just how like being a vegetarian almost provokes more creativity within how you have to eat food, and obviously like that creativity ripples throughout like your day-to-day life as well. And also just reiterating what Tim said, I like the idea that people will see you making those choices, and then it will provoke them to like question within themselves, and especially if they happen to be like younger kids. So I mean, just think about the influence that you can have if your younger cousin sees you not eating meat and you explain to him at that young age, like that's the potential that we have here to really change the world, to be the change that we want to see. So Rain, go ahead. I'm sure you got something to add.
I was just gonna say, as Tim was saying, it's the demand for the meat that drives the industry. It's not the fact that the industry exists, that it will continue to exist whether we support it or not. It is the support of our support that continues and drives the industry. And I like to think of veganism as sort of the dietary counterpart to this oneness that we would all love to attain. I mean, there's all sorts of enlightenment that is thrown around, but what does enlightenment really mean? It means to learn. And if we look in our surroundings, what are we going to learn from that? There is no disconnection. There is no superior or inferior. There is just total connection and equality.
Yeah. And you're everything and nothing at the same time. And who are we? We shouldn't have the decision of the life of another being on this planet. We don't know just because we don't understand why a fish is in the sea, what its purpose is, or why a cow exists or a chicken. It's got its own reality to live, and just because it's not within our peripheral, our knowledge to understand why they exist, that's not our decision not our right to make the choice. People always make the argument like, but a lion doesn't feel bad for killing a gazelle or something, and we are so far beyond. I mean, not beyond animals, but we have the ability to feel love, and these other animals don't, and it's part of their, they need it to survive. We don't need to eat meat to survive, and we can feel love and empathy for these creatures, so why would we do it? We have pets, and we give them names, and yet we'll constantly eat meat every day, and yet it's so hypocritical that we'll love one being and not another, just because we've given it a name and we've got a story with it because we've grown up, but before you even met that dog, it didn't exist. And you didn't feel anything for it. It's such a disconnected view. And beyond that is when you're eating the meat, it's not just what physically happens. It's you're getting the transition of the fear of the animal when it was slaughtered. It was afraid, and the adrenaline pumped through its body, and that energy transfers into your body. And that's why so many people eat meat. It keeps you in a trance of thinking that it's okay, and that it keeps you disconnected from the connection you can feel when you stop eating it. It's a beautiful thing, and the reason we eat food is to get energy, which plants and vegetables take it from light. And when you eat, an animal eats vegetables, or like a cow eats grass, which got its energy from the light, and then it's like a middleman of the cow. We're trying to get our energy from the cow, which got it from the grass, which got it from the sun. But when you just cut out the middleman and you eat the fruits and vegetables, you get energy straight from the source, and you get truth that comes with that light as well.
Rain, if you got something to add, go ahead,
I was just going to say, like in the interview that I did with Tim, he talks about all the realizations that he came to once eating a fruit-based diet, and that is one of the most like profound thing that most people don't really talk about. Yeah. And you seemingly change your brain chemistry or change your neural connections in your brain, and you will literally begin to see life differently, and you will feel more connected. And it makes sense. The work that I'm doing is with Tony Wright, who we both met at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, and he's talking about how the fruit biochemistry literally feeds our brain in a completely different way than the biochemistry of meat does. And yes, while we had to eat meat to survive, to leave the savannah, to survive in the savannah and go throughout the world and populate the entire world, we had to eat meat to do that. It's actually caused some major degeneration in our brains. My friend's coming home right now, and I'm gonna go have to find a quiet spot, but I'll be right back.
All right, no problem. Yeah, I think empathy is such a key thing within this day and age for us to just embody as much as we can, whether that be between one person and another person, or like as we're talking about, between ourselves and other non-human animals, other species that we have here. So go ahead, Tim.
Yeah. It's hard to do. What it comes down to is loving yourself, and when you love yourself, you can love another. If you don't love yourself, you love another, but with conditions, and that's not real love. And so that's the journey within is so important to look at yourself and why every action you take, or why when you feel an emotion, it's important to feel that emotion and not blank it out. Really feel it, but then don't act on it. If it's a negative one, don't react with it. Like, question yourself, why do I feel this way? Have I got an attachment there that I shouldn't have? You know, it's important to if you love yourself, then nothing else can really affect you beyond that. Like any attachments, or if a girlfriend breaks up with you, or someone hurts you, or someone is late for something, you know, that's a reflection of them. That has nothing to do with you and who you are. And when you eat this way, it makes, like you said, it alters your brain chemistry in a way that you're way more calm and patient. I just feel generally a lot calmer and in control when I eat this way. And I don't know how much relation there is there. I do very much believe it's holistic. It's not just the diet at all. This is like an entrance, like a beginning port, or it's a big chapter of the whole thing, that it's a constant journey. But you have to exercise as well. You have to sleep properly. You have to drink a lot of water. Stay hydrated, you know, because your body is however much percentage is water. I once heard when you're born, your body's about 80% water, and when you die, your body's about 40% water. So that's, for me, is a reason to always stay hydrated, because you want to keep those water levels topped up. And whether you put in some pink Himalayan salt, or you put in some lemon to alkalize yourself, and things like these along the way are little tricks and tips you learn as you look into this journey. But there is so many chapters, and exercise is another big part of it, and that's what's blessed for me is with the parkour I get to do that, and I started to do a lot more calisthenics lately as well. One guy asked a question which I think I should address.
Sure, go for
comments. It. You know, he asked about, it was Jude Firestorm. He said, you know, if you're on a budget, how do you eat this kind of diet? If you go into like a corner store or a grocery, you can buy in bulk, bulk bananas, but it isn't that bad. A key, I'd say, to eat cheap is to eat mono meals. Buy 10 peaches instead of a KFC or something, and then that's one meal is 10 peaches, and then the next meal, you know, or buy 2 different fruits or 2 vegetables. Buy a box of tomatoes and a box of lettuce, and just eat them together, and that's a meal, and that's not going to cost you much more than, you know, $4 or $5 to do that. Don't go for organic to begin with. I do think there's an importance in organic, but obviously it changes the costs quite dramatically. And I think if you're stressing too much about trying to get organic, the stress is going to cause you more damage than the pesticides would in the first place. So it's important to eat in a calm and patient manner, and enjoy the food that you're eating, and not, because as you're putting that into your body, it's becoming part of you. And if you're stressed about something or worried as you're putting it into your body, you know, you're only going to, those energies are going to transfer to the food and transfer into, and as it makes up your being, it's going to become that. And it's important. They say don't eat when you're stressed or upset or angry. And that's the thing, is when we're at our weakest point, is when we eat the worst. When we're feeling weak or lonely, that's when we go to these foods, because they're a go-to. They feed that. I don't want to say the word addiction, but I feel like it's an addiction. The negative foods, they're comforters, you know. And what's using a cook, and it is hard, but it's a journey, and it's important to focus on transition. People might try being vegan for a week, and then they mess up once, and they go, I can't do it. But that's not the attitude. It's okay to mess up. It's great to mess up. I've messed up plenty of times. Messing up teaches you. You feel bad after you mess up. Your body may feel worse from what you've just eaten, and then you realize, you know, I've got to keep going. I notice the difference now between how I used to eat and how I eat now, and how it makes me feel and how it used to make me feel. Now you notice the difference because you messed up. You get to feel that way again. You're like, right, okay, so maybe there is a reason I should stick with this. It reminds you why you did it in the first place, and it makes you feel that it was the right thing. And then you can continue with the chapter. Okay, mess up. That may last a few days where you eat badly for a few more days, but take your time. And when you get the strength back, try again. And each time it gets easier and easier, and you learn new tricks. and you find new foods that you like that you didn't realize you like. Like for me, dates is a staple. If I'm leaving the house for a few hours to train, I'll make sure I take a pack of dates with me, and then I can just snack on them. They give me energy, and they're really enjoyable as well. If I want vegetables, although it isn't a vegetable, tomatoes sweeten up any salad. Salads can be boring or whatever, but tomatoes or tomatoes, as you say in America, they sweeten it up for me. So you find the staples that you can rely on that can make any foods into a better taste. You know?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was talking about beforehand, is just the idea that when you start not becoming so dependent on the things that you're used to eating all the time, and you probably don't even enjoy anymore, but like when you start like venturing into the fruits and vegetables and any of the nuts and everything, like first of all, like there's so much color there, like it's visually stimulating, and it like almost brings you back to like childhood memories and in some ways when you just, I mean, just think about. There's a reason
it's colourful, man. There's a reason it's colourful, and they say
to get our attention,
as Tony Wright said, as Raini referenced Tony Wright, he said, fruit knows us. We don't know fruit. Fruit knows what we like. Fruit knows what we're attracted to, and it makes itself like that.
Yeah,
fruit is
really.
Yeah. Our eyes literally gained the ability to recognize color. We used to be colorblind animals to look at the fruit.
To get fruit.
To see what is ripe fruit and what is not.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Like I was gonna say, because we mentioned it earlier, the video on YouTube, the best speech you will ever hear, and I'm gonna post a link for that, and that's by Gary Yourofsky. And after people watch this, listen to this radio show, I would recommend going back and spending just some time listening to this if you're looking for just more insight onto this topic. And some of it is what we've already touched upon here, but just Google best speech you will ever hear, and you'll find that on YouTube, and I'll include it when this show goes up on YouTube as well. But yeah, I'd like to maybe just what were some highlights that you guys like got out of that speech that sort of influenced you in some way?
I'd say the very first part of it, where he's just talking about how, like, well, what is the Holocaust? What do you believe, like? Yeah,
like genocide.
What is different about the Holocaust than what we are doing to animals right now? And why do you love your dog more than you? Why would you not eat a horse or not eat a dog, but you would go eat an equally intelligent animal like a pig? Or it all has to do with social programming. People in China eat dogs and cats. It's because that's their culture. That's how they were programmed. And it's question within. That's what that movie will make you. That speech.
Really hits home. He's quite heavy. Some people will think he's aggressive, but he's just a really passionate guy, and it's so spot on. It was important for me to hear it that way because no one had delivered it to me that way, and I really appreciated it done like that.
Yeah, and even he was talking about how the human body, like physically, like the intestines are designed for breaking down fruits and vegetables, opposed to like the length of an intestine that you would have associated with like a carnivore. So just again going back to like what you were saying, Raini, is that like we evolved as herbivores, and the meat eating thing is only something that we've adopted as like part of our
survival. It was
survival. Right. Do we need it anymore?
We can survive, but we don't thrive on it the same way we thrive on fruit.
Right.
Yeah.
We have a sweet tooth for a reason. Yeah. People always love saying I have a sweet tooth, so they want some ice cream or they want some sweets. But it's just, you need to recalibrate your tongue back down to the level, because all these foods they feed you. What I realized, and this was a really profound realization for me, was that the easiest sense for us to get pleasure from is taste. It's the simplest one, but before our eyes, before what we hear. Obviously, music's great, so powerful, but taste is the simplest pleasure. So we go to it so often and so frequently to please ourselves, as like I've earned this. I feel, to comfort ourselves, like I said. So once I realized that's where they're going to target us. That's where they're going to try and take our money. That's where they are trying to take our money with food, with addictive food. They put addictive products in it. They put chemicals in it. They put chemicals in that only care about shelf life and not a self-preservation. They're just the shelf preservation, That's all they care about, is it surviving on the shelf. You want the foods that are going to rot. But once I realized the easiest sense to please is taste, then you really got to question what's going on.
Yeah.
That's that's where they're going to take control of it, you know.
Yeah, like we were talking briefly before the show, but there's a quote I read out of a book somewhere, but it was basically just saying that like how our food is the cause of and solution to a huge amount of humanity's problems, if not the source. So I mean, it is one of the things that we do have immediate control over, because no one's forcing you to put stuff in your mouth. You might say like, oh, but like, how am I supposed to become vegetarianism when I'm like surrounded by meat? Well, using some willpower is how you would have to go about doing that, and also through community support, and also by being inspired by guys such as Tim, by guys such as Rain, who are walking the walk and talking the talk and explaining the benefits, and we'll get more into that, just like some of the benefits of being vegan and how that coincides with your work within, you know, your athletic performance as a free runner, as a parkour athlete. And I was just going to say, you know, like in terms of maybe just some quick examples of what people could like have for breakfast or just a common meal. For me personally, like one of my favorite things to eat that doesn't involve any meat is simple. All I do is I just get like granola, yogurt, and some cut up fruit. And that in itself is an awesome light snack, and I usually like eat one or two of those like every day. So I mean, Rain and Tim, what would you offer just as like your favorite snack dish in terms of like vegetarianism or veganism?
Personally, I like in the morning time lots of water-rich fruit. I usually start off the day with a bunch of water. It's kind of the raw vegan coffee. It pushes everything through. It pushes everything through your system, gets you ready for the new day. So at least a liter of water, sometimes two, is optimal. And then start with a water-rich fruit, something melons or oranges. I love the juice oranges, or just eat them. It's definitely start out light. You'll feel a lot better, and then maybe for lunch or brunch, which is the thing when you're eating lots of fruit, since it's so quickly digestible and so high in water, you're going to just want to eat constantly. Or not constantly, but you're going to want to have a big meal and then maybe an hour later have some more in it. And you don't have to prepare anything, so you're not taking more time out of your life. You're just maybe eating more often, which you don't have to do if you're eating lots of dates or eating lots of bananas.
Lots of snacks.
Right.
Fruits and, so I was just going to say fruits and vegetables, nuts, like those are all great snack material. So I mean, you just take a Ziploc bag full of nuts with you. Like go to the bulk barn and just like get like a pound of like almonds or something, and just get in the habit of snacking on those. Go ahead,
I'd say for me, we wake up in the morning so much stronger than in the evening. So if you can just start the day off strong and only have fruit for breakfast, I agree with Raini said about drinking water. I try and drink about a liter of water, wait half an hour so that filters through. We're so dehydrated from sleeping for 7 or 8 hours without drinking anything. Our body's used all the water resources, so we wake up dehydrated. It's important to replenish that. Then wait half an hour as that filters through. Then eat some water breakfast like oranges or melon if you got melons or grapes. But generally, I try and go, oranges, I think, and melons are the best breakfast. And because, like I said, we're a lot stronger in the morning. So if you eat wheat and you eat bread, really try to leave that till the evening meal. Because once you have it in the morning, then lunchtime comes around and you want bread again, and then the evening comes and you want more bread or pasta or whatever. If you can have just fruit for breakfast and then wait until lunch before you start that, and then you have your bread, that's a lot better. And then as you get stronger and it becomes easier, just have fruit for breakfast, just have salad for lunch. And then for dinner time, then you can have your cooked food and your sweet potatoes and your pasta or your rice if you can do that. It's all about learning the transition and acknowledging, like I say, I think it's very important to realize you are stronger in the morning. You wake up so much more focused that you can do anything. So that in that morning, just have the fruit and the water, leave the house, do what you got to do, come back for lunch, then you can start the next chapter.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's, again, if people are looking for reasons as to why they might want to become a vegetarian or vegan, I think a big part of it is just like the ripple effect that it does have on who you are just in your regular everyday, and in your ability to make decisions, and your ability to be more aware of your surroundings, and your ability to have more empathy for other people, to be able to how you respond opposed to reacting. I mean, oftentimes, like Tim was saying, the food we put in is literally what we become, and the scientific fact behind that is, as everyone sort of heard, but sometimes we just don't live literally think about it this way, is how like the cells in our body get replaced every X number of years within like different organisms, within our different organs, but eventually our entire body gets replaced. So if you eat like a bunch of like crappy like chocolate bars and all this junk, then like 7-10 years later, that's what your body is going to be constructed out of, opposed to the healthy, like oxygen rich, nutritious cells that would be created if you're like having a more fruit rich vegetable diet. And I think like I'll just pass it off to you guys. Like, what are some well, I'll do a couple things, but first I just want to sort of like wrap up here, and then like I was gonna say, for anybody in the live chat, feel free to post questions now, and if you have any questions, maybe questions that you want clarification on, if you're thinking about becoming like vegan vegetarianism and you're just looking for tips on how to get started. But that's what I was going to ask Tim and Raini here. What are some other pointers that we can practically leave the listeners with to help them take those steps forward?
I'd say when transitioning to this diet, the biggest concern is usually protein, which really should be the least of our worries, because there's not even medical terminology for a deficiency in protein. It just doesn't exist, basically. And what we should be focusing is on carbohydrates, essential nutrients, and because that's one of the big myths, is we need a certain amount of protein in order to be healthy. We need animal protein, but that is really our body's least worry. It should be something like 5 to 7% of our calories coming from protein, when at least 80% of our calories should be coming from carbohydrates, and maybe the other 10 or less coming from fats. And this is based off of a athletic optimal diet called the 80-10-10 system that was popularized by scientists, but repopularized by a doctor named Douglas Graham, and he's basically doing all sorts of retreats. He's been coaching for almost his whole life, and he's extremely athletic and extremely healthy himself. And he was at the Woodstock Fruit Festival. But basically, what we should be worrying about is carbohydrates. And where are we getting these carbohydrates? If we're not getting it from sugar directly, we must be getting it from other sources, either starches, or even if we're just eating fat, our body changes to a totally different method of digestion, and it turns the fat into glucose, which is sugar, and which is a carbohydrate, and that takes extreme amounts of energy. And the quickest way to get lots of energy is just eat the carbohydrates straight up. Just eat sugar, just eat fruit, or second best would be starches like rice, potatoes, pasta, and those are cooked. If you don't want to go completely raw and just go on a fruit and vegetable diet, that's another great option. It's cheap too, so if you're in a bind financially, go with the rice and the potatoes and the pasta. Yep. It's some of the cheapest foods you can get out there. And try to keep your carbohydrate intake very high and your protein and fat content intake very low. So eating a bunch of nuts, a better alternative, as Tim said, would be dates, because you can just carry them around in a bag. They won't get squished and ruin all your stuff in your backpack with juiciness. But try out the dates. Nuts are awesome too, but if you're eating a lot of fat, it can actually cause problems in the long run. So
go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with that. Find the transition foods. Yeah, sleep, water, sugar. As you were about to say, sleep, water, sugar. That's what you need. It's a holistic approach. It's everything. But in terms of food transitioning, add the fruits and vegetables to your diet as it is. Continue to eat the diet you're eating, but just add fruits and vegetables. Eat as much as you want. And then find the new snacks that replace the old snacks. It's a slow transition. The first change I ever made was to stop drinking any drink but water. I don't even remember where I got the strength to do it from, but because I used to really like fizzy drinks, and it took about maybe 3 or 4 months, and it doesn't even become an option in your head. I know it's there for a while, but now I don't even look, like it's not even a thought in my head. I only drink water. I know I only drink water. Unless I make a juice or smoothie at home, I only drink water and coconut water occasionally. But it's making the transition slowly and doing one step at a time. But adding more fruits and vegetables to your diet, your body will soon start to get the nutrition it needs from them, and you start to not crave the other stuff as much, and you'll find the foods that you like. You'll start eating nuts instead of potato chips. You'll start eating dates instead of sweets. You know, you start buying raw cacao beans or nibs and putting them in your blender with bananas. Instead of eating chocolate, you'll have chocolate banana smoothies, which are dairy-free. You'll get there. It's just finding the way, and it comes to you. Like, the universe will reward you for taking a step in that direction. You just have to turn that way first.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I would like to think that with this point so far in the episode, some people are starting to take part in that process of questioning within. And definitely, I mean, in terms of changing the world, in terms of social activism, it starts by cleaning the front doorstep within your own house, so take care of yourself. And if more people can do that, if more people can continue to become more conscious of what we're putting into our body, and not only that, but what we are supporting. So remember, like with everything that we purchase, with everything that we eat, that's like a universal vote towards creating more of it, towards needing to replace it. So if you can vote towards being something more holistic, then please do that. And again, we're trying to save the world here by creating habits that are going to become memes that will be able to pass on to our generations to follow. And I think, I think it will happen. It is happening. Like, vegetarianism, veganism is becoming a meme. Like, it is becoming something that is quite obvious that there are benefits as to why you should do it. And something that, Tim, you mentioned earlier, and I think it's like a great point, is the idea that when you cut out the middleman, when you cut out like the animal that's eating the food that we're eating out of the animal sort of thing, like when you just have that fruit or that vegetable that is directly taking and transmuting energy from the sun, and then we're taking that into our body, it literally is this process of us taking in more light, and we literally become lighter. And lighter in the sense of how we measure like pounds and kilograms, but also lighter in the sense that we embody more light and Tim,
and truth,
and truth, and what is universal truth? Like, one truth, many paths. But Tim, what I was going to ask you, with someone who's so involved with parkour and a sport that involves and demands so much articulation with the body and so much awareness of the body, how much of a difference did you notice from prior to you going down the vegetarian veganism path to afterwards in terms of lightness, if you know what I mean, if that makes sense?
No, I definitely, my body is at a way more optimal weight now than it has ever been. I was a lot larger before, and I trimmed up. There's no point for me in being big, and it's way more beneficial for me to be agile, and it's allowed me to be more agile because I've lost weight and trimmed up, and I'm a lot smaller than I was. I think, where was it? Lost my train of thought. But yeah, I just think it's super important. It really helped me. I had more energy. My joints heal a lot faster. My inflammation went. I had Achilles tendonitis. That went away. When you're eating the meats, it strips your bones of calcium. It takes a lot of energy from your digestive system. The way our reptilian brains work is they prioritize certain organs before other organs. So the digestive system, the stomach, the intestines, is a priority before our skin and before our joints and before our ligaments. So as long as our digestive system is struggling and it's taking all the energy digesting meat, which it struggles to do, and it takes up to 75% of our energy sometimes to digest meat, which is why you feel tired and sluggish after you eat a big meat meal. So then it's prioritizing the digestive system over these ligaments, and so they don't get the healing time that they need after you're training this high-impact sport. So once I gave my digestive system a rest and started eating lighter foods, the fruits and the vegetables, then that gave a lot more energy and space in my body for it to focus on healing the joints and the ligaments and everything like that. And it benefited me in so many ways in terms of healing, energy, feeling younger. I feel like I'm 12 years old again. When you were a younger kid, you used to continuously run around and you never felt joint aches or anything. And then you get older and we put it down. Here's the bullshit that they spin you is we put it down to old age. Oh, I'm getting older. My joints hurt. That's no. Your body's not it stops like it stops dealing with the shit that you're giving it, and it's just giving up because you're just continuously feeding it shit. And when you sort that out, it goes back, it reverts back. The body wants to be healthy. The body's natural state is health. But when you're not, if you're not healthy and you blame it on old age and something's not right, it's not old age. It's because it can't do it anymore. It can't deal with the shit that you feed it. So you have to make that change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's Rain. I'll pass it off to you in a second. I just have a book in front of me. I'm just going to read a quick quote from. The book is actually from like way back in the 18th century, but it's called The Principles of Higher Knowledge, and it was written by a German guy. And there's just this one line just that I'm going to read here real quick, and it says, "In the equilibrium of our circulating liquids originates the health of the body. Plus or minus is the source of all our ailments. Thousands of ailments came into being when we became careless with our with our health and left nature's path. All ailments are nothing else but modifications of the plus or minus." So the thousands and thousands of ailments are thousandfold consequences of a very few effects. So maybe, what do you guys think of that?
Spot on, yeah, spot on, man. Definitely, like I said, a natural state is health. That's it. Go on, Raini.
Yeah. I mean, I'd attribute leaving the natural process to leaving the evolutionary diet that we evolved on for millions of years, maybe even hundreds of millions of years in the forests of Africa. And I mean, either whether or not we believe in evolution or we believe in the Garden of Eden or any other religious myth or tradition, it's the same story. It's we evolved in a forest of fruit and vegetables, or we evolved in the Garden of Eden, which was a forest of fruit and vegetables. Like, it is our original nature, and it is symbiosis with nature. It is oneness with nature. It's a relationship where we're taking the fruit from the tree. It's feeding us while we're helping it out with its reproduction. We're pooping out, spitting out the seeds, continuing the growth of the forests, of nature, of what supports us, of our environment. And whether it was curiosity of what's beyond the forest, or whether it was environmental disaster that led us to likely it was an environmental disaster. There's actually a lot of evidence to suggest that an ice age happened and it cut off the fruit trees, so we had to use these big brains that we had evolved to flint-knap stones to create spears because we don't have claws to kill animals, and to build fire because we don't have the digestive system to digest the raw meat, so we had to cook it. So we had to use these big brains that we evolved, likely because of our relationship with fruit, to survive on a different diet, which is much less optimal, which is full of steroids and full of things that is actually going to revert our big brains back to a more mammalian, carnivorous mindset of not of symbiosis and oneness, but of competition and parasitism. Basically, it's we're now being a parasite. We're now killing other animals just so we can survive, rather than living in a symbiotic relationship with nature. So it's a very, as you said, it's a meme. Really, it is the golden meme. It is the golden rule. It is do unto others as you as you want them to do unto you. Right?
Absolutely.
And
yeah, I was just going to say, like, you know, we as humans, we have this incredible gift of the voice. The animals, they don't have that, and I'm sure if they did, they would probably be trying to explain to us, you know, and like plead for their lives if they could, but that's not the case, you know. We sort of see right past that, and that's just something that's like not in front of us. But we have a responsibility to use our voice to like be the voice for the voiceless, so to like stand up for the little guys. But Rain, sorry, continue your thought there, and then I forgot something else I was going to mention.
I was just going to go along with the story of I mean, stories continue to correlate through religion and evolution. We left the Garden of Eden, or we left the the fruit forests of Africa, and in religion we left the Garden of Eden because we listened to a snake that told us to eat something that we shouldn't be eating. And if we go further into religion, into Jesus Christ and other such people, they talk about Jesus. The only group he affiliated himself with was the Essenes, and there's a book called the Essene Gospel of Peace, which basically calls Satan a parasitic worm living within our bodies.
Amazing book.
That craves meat and cheese and animal products, and so like all the correlations. Once we look at it, it's basically religion and science are not that far from one another. And I'm working on a documentary right now based on the work of Tony Wright, who talks about this neural brain evolution and brain degeneration that's going on with the human race right now. And it talks about how science and religion are one with one another, and instead of doing what we've been doing for thousands of years of dividing one another through different religions and different ideologies, we can finally look at all of the facts and bring one another together back into a peaceful relationship with the earth. That religion and science are both telling a story of why we should do that.
Yeah. I was going to say there's a quote that I have in front of me that is just very relevant to all of this, and it's, "We are fed by the food industry, which disregards health, and we are healed by the medical system, which disregards food." But, and like, this isn't part of the quote, so, in the future, our medicine will be our diet. Like, we become our own doctors, and that's, really empowering.
Food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food. Hippocrates said that. It's so basic. It's so simple. It's so simple and obvious, and yet we're so disconnected from it that the food has gotten worse, and so has our health. And yet, like you say, they make no relation from one to the other. It's absolute bullshit, and it's it's all marketing, and the government don't really care at this stage, which is why we have to take control for ourselves, because they honestly don't care. And if we start taking control for themselves, babies are on the throne right now, and it's so sad to see, because they only care about the rich people because they don't want to upset them, and they're scared to stand out and keep their integrity, because this is what runs the world. And you've got McDonald's with slogans like "I'm loving it," and
yeah, really.
Do you know what I mean? And Gillette,
typical brainwashing,
typical brain. And the best a man can get for Gillette is absolute crazy. Like, these little things, and it's like, how low are we selling ourselves that our love is for fast food, and that Subway eat fresh when it's baked wheat and gluten, which sticks to our insides and guts, and it's like, how blind, and like, it's in our faces that they do this because it works. It's just sales and it's money to them. It's ludicrous, but we're so afraid to take the stand, people are. So that's why I have to take the stance, and you have to take a stance, and Raini does, because we care about ourselves, but more than that, we care about other people. And that's the hard part, is a lot of people think vegans are self-righteous, and it's just, honestly, it's just hard for us to sit by and watch other people harm themselves and harm other beings on the planet. It's so sad. It's very sad, and it's why we become so passionate. It's not about we want other people to think the same way as us. That's what everyone thinks, that we preach it because we want everyone to think the same way as us. It's not about that. Like, I don't want everyone to do parkour. That's fine. Like, find your passion and enjoy it. But this is fundamental to holistic attitude and holistic life, and a big chapter on the spiritual path is looking at this.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other benefits towards just being more conscious of what we're putting in our body. And I mean, one of the topics that does come up here fairly regularly within Paradigm Shift Radio and the Paradigm Shifty conversation is the topic of lucid dreaming and astral projection, just becoming more aware of what we can do within that dream state. And one of the things that is written in several different sources, and going back to this idea that as you eat the fruits, that you literally become lighter in that process. So it's really interesting just to think that how changing our diet can actually change like our potential to have more visceral experiences within our dream state, if that's something one is actively pursuing. But again, I think just one of the key and simplistic ways that you can look at doing this whole thing is just as a test of willpower. If you don't think that you can do it, then that is like all the more reason to try doing it, and then to allow yourself to transform through the process. And like Tim was saying, I mean, life itself is a sine wave. It goes up and down, up and down. So don't just expect to go up. It's okay to go up, see what it's like, come back down, and maybe you're gonna like eat a hamburger right before you do like one of like the parkour competitions or something like that. Tim, didn't you do that once?
I did it.
American
Ninja Warrior. Yeah, I don't know where did I even say that. I don't remember, but I did. I ate a burger before I went on Ninja Warrior, and then I did kind of a meditation, I guess, and tried to clear my body of its negative energy and fears and doubts before, and I felt a blockage when I got to my stomach. I was going through every part of my body, and I felt that so heavy in my stomach. It didn't, like, I still did it. I completed it and ended up winning that round, but I felt it. I felt the difference in me, and that negative entity sat in my belly. And like you said about people be able to astral plane and they have better dreams, and it's all like your body is your vessel and it's your antenna to receive these information. And once it's clear and you clear all the blockages, then it's way more susceptible to feeling these things and to move to other dimensions and to transverse through this dimension with much more ease, and you have more synchronicities and deja vus and all these things that are signs that we're on the right path. You're able to follow them more, and it puts us more in touch with our heart and out of our left brain and into our creativity. And even they talk about raw vegan having a low sex drive or no sex, like that's part of it, right? But it's not a low sex drive, it's the normal sex drive that we should have. We feel more horny in the spring and less horny in the winter. Or you eat, or if you need to, you eat nuts, and they are the seed of life. So that energy of the nut that it carries, and the seeds carries the energy of new life, so that if you need to perform, then you have some of them, and it gives you up. But the problem is people, and there's nothing sadder to me than seeing a guy that's so, sorry to use this phrase, pussy hungry, that's just craving for women and sex. It's such a sad and ugly thing to see. And with that diet, that's what you get. They get the energies of these horny animals transferred to them, and that's all they want, and it controls their life, and they're seeking this constantly, and it ruins their lives. Whereas when you change to a vegan diet or raw vegan, it lowers you, and you become, in a way, more feminine, but you just become less with that horny, and you become more passionate, and you can only really be turned on by psychological attraction. It's not just this physical, raw, uncontrollable state. It's way deeper than that, and it's much more controllable. And it's much more humbling, and I think it's way more manly to be in control of that aspect of ourselves, because that's another chapter in the spiritual journey, is controlling our sex drive.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And we did talk about that specifically on the last episode, and I had a feeling that it would come up again in this episode in some way or another, and we can get more into that within this conversation. What I would actually like to do right now, I have another buddy who's actually going to be jumping onto the air with us just briefly here. This is my good buddy Derek, who's also from London, Ontario, Paradigm Shieff London, and facebook.com/Paradigm Shieff London for anybody in the area. But Derek, he is, without really needing to introduce him, I'm just going to bring him on, and I know he's really been enjoying the conversation so far, and we'll see what he has to add. So Derek, if you're ready, we're going to bring you live onto the Paradigm Shieff Radio. Here we go. Hello, Derek. Hey, Derek, we can hear you.
Hey, Tim and Rain. Mad respect to you guys following along.
Thanks, man.
Awesome.
So there's nothing to argue with. I agree with everything you guys have been saying, and I'm right on page. I really like what you're just saying about like being in control, not being driven by lust. I feel like that's something people recognize as a demon or as an obstruction in their spiritual flow these days. And I feel like eating a more natural, less processed diet really has an effect on giving you more control over your energy.
It puts us back in harmony with the planet. Like I say, we feel in spring maybe we feel more horny, because that's when the planet is ready for it. That's the harmony of the planet, and it's important for us to be in sync. I saw a spirit science recently which mentioned the signs and the flows and the cycles that we create that are man-made and the cycles that nature creates, and we're much more at peace and happy when we're in tune with the cycles that nature creates and the ones that we've created ourselves. And it's the same thing with there's a lot of man-made products that we think help us as human beings, but they take us away from our nature and our essence. And it's things like trainers. I go barefoot a lot of the time. Our feet have evolved thousands of years to be the way they are, and then we put them in shoes, and then we get hip problems and knee problems because our shoes allow us to walk lazily, and they control the issues seemingly with your feet, but then the issues end up higher up. Whereas when you walk bare feet, it aligns your whole body up. It straightens you up. You have to walk evenly. Just little things like this where we have man-made creations that stop us from that question the evolution. We're questioning whichever the creator or wherever the source of like a rainbow was made by somebody. They're the same. That's the same. Or that was made by whatever evolution. I don't know how to explain it. The creator God, the divine, the higher power created the rainbow, and the same thing created our feet. And yet we put shoes on them and say, no, this is better for us. But yet it's man-made. You know, it's not. We need to go back to nature. Nature is like you said before. When we go to nature, you feel so much more peace. You know.
Yeah,
definitely.
I was just gonna say, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, Rain. I know.
No, you're fine. It's all good.
Derek has gotta get to some family stuff he's gotta jump out to.
Okay.
I was just gonna say real quick though, just because Tim mentioned it. Rainbows only exist because we as humans are there to see them. The rainbow doesn't exist outside. It's only through the spectrum of our eye that we're able to see it. So just
that's really cool. That's
one of those peculiar things, that we don't really think about. So, but yeah, Derek,
Thank you
what
for
would
that.
you like?
I didn't know that. Go on.
Yeah, a little paradigm shift there. Derek, excuse me. Derek, what would you like to say, whether it be about rainbows or anything else?
I think on the topic of shoes and causing other problems, another thing that goes with that is pillows affecting our cerebrospinal and dreaming, and how it affects our dream recollection.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So that was something, and it actually, if you sleep without a pillow, or even if it's just on for your sides, but you sleep on your back flat, it really helps in the even flow of energy through the top of your skull.
I bet it does. I'm going to try that. Thank you, Derek.
That reminded me.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never slept better than sleeping on my back with no pillow. If you're on your side, it may be better to have a pillow or use your arm as a pillow, because it's not good to have your neck to the side like that. But sleeping on your back is optimal.
On the topic of sleep, I sleep with a earthing sheet so that I'm connected to Earth. And it helps me recover, but beyond that, it helps me have much more lucid dreams because I'm connected to the earth as I sleep, and there's definitely something from that I gain, you know.
Definitely, and being grounded is the best way to get the EMF waves to go back into the earth instead of mess up our own bodies.
Mm-hmm. Derek, go ahead if you want to jump in.
Yeah,
sorry.
Well, no. That's awesome. I feel like it's good to see consciousness and veganism or wholesome diet being intertwined and integrated, because a lot of the times I still see a schism between them. People don't really connect the dots.
They don't, man. It's so sad to see, and it's frustrating, but it's such a big part. It's like I said, it's a massive chapter of spirituality is diet and gluttony. As the 7 sins are there for a reason, you know, there's truth to them. Like you said, lust earlier is one of them. Gluttony is another massive one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people are going vegan for not only the wrong reasons, but for specific reasons. And when it really should be just the simplest part of it, which is eating and doing what we should be doing, natural. What is natural for us? It's not even if you can pick it apart and do it all for these little tiny reasons, but then if you're doing it for specific reasons, then you're going to have holes in. It's not going to be holistic. It's not going to encompass life in a holistic sense. It's just going to be almost superficial.
It's not unconditional. It's not genuine.
Right. It's not. It's superficial. Really, in the long run.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to
go ahead, Derek.
2 things actually. One is on the process side of things with regards to the horny and the lust problem. MSG. It activates the sexual pleasure part of our brain, and it's addictive. Bad for our hearts, but good. It activates your sexual chakra, and it's in almost everything, because they wrote a law that can get passable as natural flavor, as spices, as artificial flavor, as a number of different names. And so
you
MSG,
said that MSG, yeah. So go ahead.
Addictive and stimulates the sexual pleasure part of our brain. So that kind of came up in my head when you guys were talking about that, and I fully respect people acknowledging that as a topic, really. The other thing is fruit. Fruitarians apparently were what we used to be in the garden back in when we didn't have to kill and I think that as veganism progresses, we're going to move more and more towards that. because they're discovering like plants do have nerves, they do think, they do feel, and they have ESP. They're capable of thoughts and sentient actions just on a slower time scale than we're able to perceive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really.
So like
amazing.
vegetables don't taste good to kids. When you look at kids, like they say a joke like, what's the difference between boogers and broccoli? Well, kids will actually eat boogers. But the thing about fruit is no one can tell you that fruit doesn't taste good. It tastes sugary, it tastes good, it's natural.
Right.
Yeah.
Fruit doesn't harm the actual plant.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, well, like when you pick cherries or apples or mangoes, it doesn't actually hurt the parent tree. It's meant to be given. And then the part of the fruitarian thing with going back to reading Ancient Earth is saying that it wouldn't even just provide a meal for us, but the skin and the fruit, the seeds that we leave behind and throw away would feed smaller animals and insects, and they would produce more trees, which would keep the cycle going.
Yeah.
So you kind of not syncing up with a bigger wave of nature, and we are way more at peace when we're in line with the bigger cycles.
Yeah. Another point on that is, if you take fruit and then you eat it, then you're left with the seed, or you swallow the seed and then you poop it out, and you're left with a mound of dung with the seeds inside it, ready, perfect for it to grow. And that's the circle of life. Whereas when you kill an animal, you can't get another animal from that. It's just died. So then there's nothing more to access. That's the end of the circle of life. There's no circle there. So when you're eating the fruit, you continue the circle of life. You finish the flesh on the outside. You get the seed on the inside. You can plant a new one if you need to, and then you continue the circle. It gives you that gift. At the end of the meal, you've got a gift to make some more. Whereas when you kill an animal, it ends. It's not cyclical at all.
Yeah, and I think that's why we always see that within native cultures, is that when it does come to the point where they do have to kill an animal, that there's so much respect involved in the process. So I mean, even for people listening to this, if you're in that process and you're still eating meat, maybe it's okay to keep eating meat, but just begin to change the way that you're thinking about it and begin to be more open to how you feel about it, because you may catch yourself like eating a delicious hamburger and almost feeling guilty in the back of your head. And if you do, then that's not necessarily a bad thing. That just means that you're actually becoming like more in tune with like your natural emotions, if that's what you're leaning towards. So yeah. But yeah, Derek, I guess you're probably you got a jet in the next couple minutes. Maybe you got a few more points that you want to leave with us before you go?
The one that is I think that we were talking about vegans and pride and being passionate and preachy, and I fully understand that, both sides of the fence. I've been on both. And moving forward, I think that like as vegans, we need to stop chastising and don't judge each other, because that means that you don't see each other as equal and you think you're more equal or somehow on different levels.
Yeah.
Which I don't think anyone here is, but we've all been caught once or another. It's the ego, so we're trying to surpass that. On the other side, for a message, I think something that could help on the whole and make it a lot more practical so we don't seem so extreme, in big quotes, is reductionism. Even if you don't want to quit or give it up, just gloss over the highlights and the benefits, the health benefits that you get from eating more natural-based diet and less refined processed. And tell people you have to quit. It's like starting to run. You don't start going 500K. One step at a time.
Yeah, right. I agree with that point, and I think that is, when it comes down to it, my message, especially for kids, and what's blessed with my position of doing parkour is kids will listen to me, because I remember when I was a kid, if I saw someone doing what I do, I really I'd love it. I'd love movement and the way the body moves, and you look at it through pure eyes of love. As they get older, they look at it through fearful eyes, because of adults' conditioning, and they say, oh, you're going to hurt yourself or whatever. But as a kid, like 99% of kids look at what we do and they appreciate it. The ones that don't are the ones that have been put fear into their head by their parent, who stopped them from climbing on the sofa when they were 2 years old, and it's been implanted in them from that point. But so my message to kids is literally just eat more fruits and vegetables. Eat as much fruits as you want. Don't eat the sweet, eat the fruits. Like the rest of the diet can come when they're older. If the parents are feeding them meat, it's hard for a 5-year-old, 10-year-old to tell the parent they're going to stop eating meat sometimes, if they're not that understanding. But so if they just eat more fruits and vegetables, then when they get older, they can make that conscious decision themselves when they leave the house or whatever.
It's so better to focus on the good rather than the bad, rather than saying, oh, meat is bad for you. Talk about how good fruits and vegetables are for you, because people want to hear that. They don't want to hear bad things about their bad habits. They want to hear good things about their progression in life, and they want to, I mean, like, I don't even like to use the word veganism really, because it sounds like a club that you're not in. It sounds like a word.
Yeah.
It sounds like some club that you're just not a part of. And then it kind of puts this like inferior complex on it all. I just like to talk about a plant-based diet, or even frugivores, because that's what we're literally classified as. We're not herbivores, we're not omnivores, we're not carnivores. We're something that most people have never even heard of. We're called frugivores. And like, regardless of our cultural egos and regardless of what we've been eating our whole life, we are that. That is what our biological, physiological, and biochemical makeup is designed to process. It's fruit and vegetables.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Derek, do you got to head out?
It's been really great having me on the show. Thank you guys, and much respect. The last point I had was just in regards to fear, which you touched on. Everything you guys have said, I've been right on page. We're in sync. I've noticed a lot less fear energy in myself, and I don't feel afraid. I wasn't even afraid much before, but in myself, letting go and being able to, bungee jump, cliff jump, skydive, do anything that might have held you back before. We consume the fear energy if you're still eating. Like, you are what you eat, literally and metaphysically. Yeah. And so it's awesome to see people who are vegan and free running, because that kind of proves at a point to me that, once you start to let up and let go, you loosen up and you feel way more free. And that's what this is all about, I think. Yeah. It's freedom.
Freedom.
Yeah. I agree. When I move through purity, so I'm just chewing some pistachios. When I move through purity and love, and I'm not like a lot of people think you can maybe showing off, but I noticed from very early on that I didn't want to show off. I wanted to explore my body. And when I move, I've never broken a bone from free running, and people are often surprised by that. They think it's the most dangerous thing. But I've always tried to make sure I was moving authentically, and I was doing it out of love and passion. And when you do things out of love and passion, there's like a higher power that I feel I'm protected by. Like, it oversees me, because I'm following my heart. And I'm not doing it to show off. I'm not doing it to impress girls. I'm not doing it to be famous or to make money. That when you start to do things for that, that's when you're in dangerous territory and you're alone. You're solo at that point, and that's when bad things can happen. But when you're doing it out of purity and respect and authentically, then there's a divine presence that assists you along the way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we can definitely sort of branch into a little bit more of that. But for now, I think we'll just have to say farewell to Derek for the time being. So, Derek, thanks again, man. It was good to hear
Derek.
from
you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Amen to that last point, and namaste to all. We are one.
All right.
Namaste.
All right. Cheers, man. Awesome. All right, so thanks again to Derek, and I'll include Derek's link into the YouTube information if anybody wants to get in contact with him. He's a local buddy who's helping me out with shifting the paradigms this year through the community stuff we got going on. So within the last 35 minutes of the show, I would like to remind people that there is a chance for you guys to call in. So still got plenty of time. So if anybody would like to be able to talk to Tim, would be able to like to ask either Tim or Rain or myself just a general question, this is your chance to do so. So you can call into the show using Skype. If you are logged into the live chat, then just scroll up to the top of the page and you'll see a number that says call in to talk to the host. And there's a Skype icon next to that. Click the Skype icon, launch Skype, and you can get in contact with us that way, or you can use an actual telephone, but do keep in mind there may be distance charges applied since it is a West Coast number. So the number to call in, and I'll repeat this, the number to call into the show is 347-539-5493. Again, 347-539-5493. So if you guys want to talk to Tim, please feel free to do that. And of course, you can continue to post questions in the live chat, and I'll try to keep an eye on those. So with one question that is pertinent within the live chat, and then we'll just let the conversation continue from there. Smoking Galaxies asks, and this is just for anyone in general, he says that he's often involved with traveling around a lot. He does a lot of gigs, and he tries to eat healthy, but oftentimes the food that's on the road with him is not always accessible. So his question is, how do you manage to eat well on the road and cheap and affordable? So maybe Tim would have a quick answer for that.
It's a good
question. A challenge,
It is a challenge. There's many times I've gone back to vegetarianism on the road. Because I've been in France or somewhere, and there's only cheese and bread are the real options. And the thing is, when you're traveling, you are often weaker as well, because there's a lot of
new things to take in. It takes a lot of your energy, and when you are low on energy, you become a lot less strong. Whereas at home, you can create a nice surrounding and have more strength around you. But yeah, it's literally trying to stay stocked up on fruit, buy bunches of bananas. Dates are so good for traveling because they pack so light, and there's so many calories in such a small thing. So if you, like, I was at the airport the other day and flying back from, where was I? New York, from the Woodstock Fruit Festival, and I was feeling like low on energy and like starting to feel my positivity drop, and I saw like restaurants around me to go to, and but I had a pack of dates, and I ate them, I shared them. I was waiting in line to check in, and I passed them. You know, you go zigzag past the people, and you see the same people often as you keep zigzagging down the line. And I offered some people some of my dates, and they took them, and you know, you create a nice bond and you share. And I got my calories in, and it made me, you know, it charged me up again, and then I wasn't hungry because it filled me up, and it quenched my sweet tooth as well. So the dates really are a good way. Honestly, I didn't like dates at all to begin with. It took me a while, but raisins, nuts when you're on the road, just things that pack a lot condense a lot of energy into a small thing. And fruits and vegetables. So eat whenever you get the chance as well. If you're at a shop and there's fruit and vegetables, get some and eat some every time you're there, because you never know when the next time is. And if you're starving and you go for a meal and other people around you are meat eaters or they eat big unhealthy meals and you're really hungry, you're going to be more tempted. Whereas if you've had a bit of food in you, you might be able to just reach for that slightly healthier option.
Mm-hmm. And Rain, do you have any answer as well?
Not well. Yeah, I think what he said is key. Definitely, dates, nuts, seeds, high density food, that pack light. But also, if you're going to a restaurant with somebody, there's always the salad option. It might not be the most filling, but at the price, you can usually get 2 to 3 for whatever anybody else is buying. So I mean, You might look a little strange ordering 3 things when everybody's just getting one, but eventually, I mean, it's all about not worrying about looking strange, because compared to society, if you want to be healthy, you've got to be a little strange. And so salad's always a great option. If there is just a gas station around, just go for some nuts. High calorie, high density foods. And if there is a grocery store, go with bananas.
Stock up, yeah.
Find some dates, find some raisins, find some dried mango or some dried figs or something like that. Buy them in bulk and go.
Yeah, man, totally. Just get weird with it. Just walk out with an armful of fruits. Just let people stare.
Yeah, that's the best thing, because people stare and then they start asking questions.
They see it.
And they're like, all right, hell yeah, I should be doing that too.
Yeah, so a reminder, I mean, people in this day and age, there's a lot of quote unquote unrest, and sometimes people like the idea of being able to like hold up a sign and say, shake their fist at the establishment. One of the most immediate ways that you can stand up and take action within your daily life is to start doing this, is to start eating and changing your diet and doing it so that it's visible and other people see it. And again, not to be judgmental of other people if they continue to eat chicken and meat or whatever, but just allow yourself to stand in your own strength, and it does have an effect, and people will slowly begin to like make their way through their own transformation, whatever it is. So definitely gotta storm the norm, as I sometimes say. And speaking of storm, segue into the fact that Tim is also one of the members of the Storm Freerunning team, and Facebook.com/Storm Freerunning. And Tim, with about 30 minutes left in the show, we still have the opportunity for anybody to call in. So please call in if people are listening and want to talk to Tim and Raini and just get involved with this consciousness shifting paradigm talk that we got going on here. Yeah. And what I was going to say, because I mean, everything is a metaphor for everything, and the thing that I love about parkour, and again, just reiterating the fact that I've been involved with parkour and free running and climbing trees, my entire life, if you just want to look at it that way, always like being outside and playing around and everything like that. But it is this idea that it's just so liberating. It's freedom. It is this way to just be able to connect with our body, and that can be like a very like metaphysical thing depending on how you look at it. But Tim, in terms of like what it is that you're trying to promote in this day and age, what you want other people to be inspired by, what is it that you hope that people get out of you doing your free running thing and doing it in the unique ways that you do it? Because you're more vocal than a lot of the other parkour free running athletes out there. So what is it that you hope that people get out of your message?
Yeah, it's true. A lot of the others they don't go that as far as I take it. It's the holistic approach, I think, and it's feeling like I have a responsibility, which I guess maybe causes a bit of stress, a little bit of stress on me, because I shouldn't be responsible for anyone but myself. But I feel that I'm in a position where kids can listen to me, and that I should use that responsibly. And with life, there's so much more to life than just parkour. That's the thing. So a lot of the other athletes around, everything they think about every day is parkour, and their aim in life is always something to do with parkour. Whereas my aim in life is just to bring more love to the planet. And I know that parkour isn't the answer for everyone, so it's just to spread that awareness. A lot of what I do with parkour is just play. It's just going back to that childhood, that innocence, where we just used to play and climb on things. Everyone asks me, when did you start parkour? And the question really is, when did everyone else stop doing parkour? As a kid, we always climbed on walls. We climbed trees. Most of us did anyway. Everyone I speak to, I've not really met one person that said they didn't climb on walls or trees when they were younger. And at what age do you stop? Is it when you go to high school or junior school or whatever? And the teacher says, "Oh, grow up. You should stop doing that now." And this is the problem with society: is they're discouraging children to be themselves. They're stopping. If a kid wants to climb something, then that's something that's in his heart and pure that he wants to do. Let him do it. Let him explore for himself. If children are small for a reason, that if they fall over, they don't hurt themselves. Like if you drop an ant from a height, it still survives and runs off because it's so small and light. The same thing with children. But we discourage them from climbing because we think they might fall. Because if as an adult, we're not trained for that and we fall from a height, we could hurt ourselves because there's a lot more weight. But children are so light and they can only climb a certain limit anyway. They can fall and be fine. So let them explore and experience things for themselves, not be taught by society's fears. And so my thing is, with what I want to do is help kids remain, or as they grow into adults, they still want to remain young and be childish and play around and just explore their body. We've got 2 arms, 2 legs, and we use it just for traveling to work or the train station or for shopping or for sitting and typing at a keyboard. Yet there's so much more to be done with what we've got. Do yoga. I do yoga 3 times a week. I love that. Again, when you're exercising, it takes us out of our thoughts and out of our brain. It is a moving meditation because you're focused on the task. And with free running or playing, your mind's working while you're exercising, so you trick yourself. That's why I find it hard sometimes to go for runs, because then your mind can still work and you're not really getting away from the thoughts and things. They still run through. Whereas when you are playful and you're climbing and exploring your environment and on adventures or traveling the world, you're so focused on something that you're not. There's no time to think and to worry about life, and you're just actually living life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely. We were talking about this previously on the last show. Just this idea of like getting in that zone, and I think when you give yourself an obstacle in parkour, it can be like something quite simple. It definitely demands that you be in the zone, because it's something that if you through practicing the technique, you figure out how to do it and how not to do it. But if you're not in that zone, it's so easy to mess up when you're doing parkour, and sometimes that can be like a very, very dangerous scenario that you definitely don't want to mess up in. So I mean, Tim, for you, how have you found that through parkour it's helped you in your own process of liberating fear and conquering fear? Because for me, that was a huge reason as to why I got such a kick out of like going to the gymnastics gym and starting off by learning how to do like backflips into a pit. That's how you start off. Again, you take steps. But I specifically remember the day that I did my first back tuck on my own, and realizing through that process, I was like, hey, that wasn't that hard. Like the hardest part about it was getting past the fear. So what's been your experience, and just like how doing parkour has transformed you and like helped you like let go of that fear?
Yeah, well, it teaches you to take control for yourself. You're responsible for yourself, and when you're doing parkour, you then become. People are so afraid of that self-responsibility. They're happy to watch other people do it, and they say, "Oh, I could probably do that, but I'm afraid. I could probably do that, but no, but I might land on my head and break my back." Like they just come up with the most fearful thing they can think of. That's not actually their true self thinking. It's society. It's something they've heard someone else say, or they've watched a fail video on YouTube of someone doing it, and they think that's going to be the next them. If you take control for your own life. And it gives you confidence when you do it. Like you said, you felt good when you did it, and it was like, that wasn't that hard. And you find the progressions. It's important in life, like I say, with veganism, it's a transition, it's a progression. It's not an instant thing overnight. It's finding the progressions. And parkour teaches us to find the progressions physically. And then we can apply that in our lives in other areas, like with our diet, like with our sleep, like with our what we drink, like with the women that we see, or the males, the relationships we have. We learn how to progress and take note down in our heads mentally. Okay, so that didn't work this time, or okay, next time I'll change this or that, or I'll add this in, or oh, I like that, so I'm going to do that again. You know, and it teaches you to work out the progressions, because nothing is A to Z. You know, you've got to take the B, C, D, E, F along the way, and you've got to find out those for yourself, because it's your own journey at the end of the day. And some people, they want to use you as a crutch. If you have this kind of information, they want to use you every step of the way, and it's important to acknowledge when if people are coming to you, if you are in a position of leadership or people are looking to you, that to acknowledge when someone is just, they want you to do it for them, they can't do it for themselves, and you have to, you know, step aside from those people, because they just want to crutch every step of the way, and it's maybe not the passion for them. So that's kind of a side note, but you can't rely on anyone. You have to take control of your own life, your own situation.
Yeah, definitely, and that's something like through Paradigm Shift Radio, we always remind people this process of we are our own students and teachers. And it's just the self-responsibility, like you said, and realizing that like the guru is within each and every one of us, and you know, if you just stand in front of like people, like you said, people are so afraid to go outside, but even just for people here listening to this show, within this week, set some time aside to just go outside, get barefoot in the grass, and just connect with that feeling and give yourself a chance to connect with what your body is experiencing. And then as an example, like just go find a local playground and just start like climbing on the whatever they have, or just go climb a tree. No one needs to tell you how to climb a tree. I guarantee you, if you stand in front of a tree for a good half hour, you'll figure out how to climb it just by doing it, you know? So like the instruction manuals, like it's in us. It's just like us just, you know, learning how to listen to ourselves.
Liberate yourself. No one can liberate for you, man. Do it yourself.
Yeah, you don't need to pay tuition to learn. You need to listen to inner tuition.
Yeah.
Inner tuition is the only tuition.
Yeah.
Inner tuition. That's a good one, right?
Yeah, your intuition is your inner tuition. That's it.
Yeah. So maybe I'd be curious to hear, Tim, what is your definition of intuition? Because I think that's a word that, you know, people are starting to become more. It's starting to come up to the surface, and it's starting to have more meaning, and it's something that actually is tangible and applicable. So
it's listening to your heart. Intuition is kind of a sixth sense where you're picking up on energies. So sometimes you meet someone. Now, because I've been able to tune into my intuition more, I can meet someone and I'm a very quick, not that I judge people, but I'm a very quick judge of character. You can tell whether someone's got an ego off the bat. You can tell whether it's going to be positive to be around this person for much longer or not very quickly. And the beauty of that is when you act and you trust your intuition, then it offers you more positive situations more frequently. So it gives you. I just think it's kind of following your heart, but it's in everyday situations where you have a feeling. There's like an energy that comes with every situation, every task that you entail, every person you meet. There's an energy that comes with that, and it's you've got to use your intuition whether you then give more time and energy towards that because it gives it back, or if it's sapping you, then you need to step away from it.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the aspects of just understanding intuition from my own perspective, it ties in with this idea that like we as humans, as multidimensional beings, as like spiritual beings within this physical experience, like we actually exist like beyond the present moment, meaning we exist into the past, obviously, but we also exist into the future. There's parts of us that are extending into the future like branches. And for me, that actually ties in directly with like my parkour philosophy, my free running philosophy, is this idea that if I like see like a gap, like something that I'm just going to jump or something I'm going to do a cat leap to, or even just a backflip, rather than like focusing too much in like the little details of each individual moment, like movement that I have to follow through with, it's more so this idea of like connecting to the reality where I've already accomplished what I set out to do, what my intention was, and then allowing myself to like flow through that reality that is already there, that already exists, and then connecting to it. So literally, I mean, you know, in a simple way to think of it, just the power of visualization. So if you see a gap, like imagine yourself like already doing it, and then just allow yourself to be pulled through that like reality that you're creating and that you're visualizing for yourself ahead of time. I'll just pass it off here. I was going to say, like, one of the ideas that it's actually in a book by Carlos Castaneda, but there's this great visual picture that he draws, and it's a story about like this young man, and he's with like kind of like a shaman teacher, and it's them, and they're standing at the side of a river, and then up to the right there's like a cliff, like a waterfall, and then at the top of the waterfall there's like this old man, and he's jumping across the rocks. So obviously the rocks are like very slippery. So then the young guy who's talking to the shaman, he's like, whoa, you know, like that guy's got to be careful. He's going to fall. And then the shaman's like, no, he's fine. Like he knows exactly what he's doing. And he was explaining to him, he's like, young man, like you have not learned to see. You cannot see, like quote unquote see, like what this old man is doing. And he explained what he was actually doing, and visualize this right now as I'm saying it. So the old man, he was talking about how he actually had like these tendrils, like tentacles, like octopus limbs, tree branches, tendrils, whatever you want to call them, and they were extending out from his chest and connecting to the rock. So like as he, like before he even jumped, he like shot out like these energy aspects of himself connected to that rock, and then like pulled through that movement, and that was like part of the process that enabled him to do it so successfully. So I mean, if you can actually take that and apply it into parkour philosophy, I think it's just one thing to keep in mind. It's something that I've definitely benefited from personally. So I mean, Rain or Tim, if you guys just want to bounce around off that idea, feel free.
I think that's amazing. Yeah, I think it was a very good way to put it, and I think that story is very interesting. And I agree. I often feel when people say that, oh, you need to be careful, like that they can't see, they've not lived my reality. They don't know what my reality is and my past experiences and things like that. But he takes it even further, where he uses the future projection to like guide him through in what he's doing. I once met a kid who was maybe 6-7 years old, and he was doing handstands, and they were amazing. I was so impressed, and I just was watching this kid, and he'd never seen parkour in his life, and he was like doing cartwheels off walls and playing around, and it was so pure. He hadn't watched YouTube videos and been influenced by movements he'd already seen. He was creating it himself without it. There was no name for what he was doing. He was just exploring and being a kid. And I spoke to his dad. I was like, why, you know, is his handstand so good? And like, what have you done to this kid, like, to encourage that? He was like, we never said be careful. We only ever told him to pay attention. And I always think that's amazing, because people constantly tell me to be careful. And like, obviously, I love myself. I'm going to be careful. Like, I'm not going to not be careful. No one's ever told me to be careful. And I've thought, oh yeah, actually, I better be careful. And I was in a situation of not being careful. Like, that's
thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, unless you were drunk or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But when they say pay attention, you go, focus. Like, it can put you back into that state of it being in the moment, rather than be careful. It's just like condescending that, oh, I wasn't going to be careful, but thanks for reminding me. So I thought that was amazing that he just told the kid pay attention to what he was doing. So he could explore, and he could go upside down and climb trees. Just pay attention to it and don't get distracted by something else. I thought that was spot on.
That is really key. I'm going to keep that in mind, and even just tying that back into what we were just talking about earlier with all the veganism and everything like that. I mean, rather than telling people be careful, you know, just tell them to pay attention. Pay attention.
That's it.
To what it is you're doing, what you're eating,
exactly.
and the effects that it's having. Because I mean, it's a lot easier for us to, because sometimes we don't realize that we're not being careful. And again, Even Tim, like you were just saying how, you know, the simple thing of like taking out like fizzy drinks like pops and sodas out of your diet. That was something that, I definitely went through like a couple of years ago, where it was just like, I went through this conversation, and my friend, he just really took a moment to stress it to me. He's like, those pops like are just like pure acid. Like there's no nutritional value in that. The only thing that you're getting out of that is pure like taste sensation, which again, tying back in with what we were talking about earlier. So for anybody here listening to this episode, I highly encourage you to like work on paying attention to removing sodas and pops from your diet, because absolutely, like that's just, there's no reason to be drinking those unless you're just like, caffeine and
I think it's partially a part of a big problem, because we're literally so under carb time. We're like these foods that are not giving us like immediate energy, which fruit does.
Yeah, it's true.
And so we're needing this blood sugar spike, really.
Yeah, because that's why a lot of people drink sodas. You're right. Yeah, it's because of the caffeine buzz that they get off of it that keeps them going.
And
good point.
The carbohydrate, just the sugar itself. I mean, sugar is a wonderful thing. We need sugar, but when it's devoid of nutrients, has no fiber to time release it, then it's more of a toxin than a nutrient.
Yeah. Another point with that kid that I just remembered. That young kid. I remember his dad told me when he was about 4 years old, he said, "Dad, do you know what the best feeling in the world is?" His dad said, "What?" And he said, "The first handstand of the day." I thought that was such an amazing thing for a child to be so, like, that's such a pure, innocent, and it's just a truth. You know, that an adult might say, "Oh, the best thing is the first coffee of the day," you know? And that's such a, like I said, that's a comfort, or that's an addiction that they're feeding. Whereas a kid doing a handstand is such a pure thing that's his favorite thing in the world, is when he wakes up and he gets to explore his body and his surroundings.
Yeah, and that's a huge process towards just self-love, which, going back to the last episode, if anybody who might be new to this episode, feel free to check out the last episode with Ralph Smart and just really hitting on some key points about like how self-love is like the solution to really just moving forward with a lot of things. So I would encourage you to just question within and find things within your habits that you can love. You know, like fall in love with eating fruit, like fall in love with drinking water, fall in love with taking care of yourself and becoming more physically active, and noticing the difference that it makes in your life, and noticing like the energy that you have throughout the day. Like just kind of hitting on that point, guys, like what are some other personal benefits that you found since you've paid more attention towards yourself, towards being in this reality?
I just don't rely on anyone now. And if everything is myself, I create my own reality. So anything, a problem that comes in my life, I've created it, and I can't blame anyone for it. I can only look at myself and why it's come about. So you just become more self-independent. Independence is a great feeling. I can be content with nothing. And that's the real aim here, is to be content with nothing and to not, be jealous of anyone or anything or any situation. It's just I feel content where I don't need a girl. Some people, like, every night they need to be with a girl or have company of friends, and they can't spend any time alone. And now I'm able to just spend time alone. I don't need company. I can just enjoy my own company. To me, as egotistical as this may sound, I'm the most interesting person I've ever met. And I know how egotistical that sounds, but I mean it in the purest way, that you yourself should be the most interesting person you ever met. You should intrigue yourself so much that you don't want any bad company. You don't want to spend time. Company alone is better than spending it with bad company. Do you know what I mean? You should be so content on yourself. And so do things that interest yourself. Explore your world. Use the internet. It's such a powerful thing that you can, watch amazing documentaries and explore and find new information and enjoy life.
Totally, yeah. I mean, we should be the most interesting things, because we're the most interesting if you is to find out what you tick and then change it. Exactly. And then like once as you're doing that, you tend to become more of an interesting person. Because people actually want to hang out with people who are temperamental and actually have emotional stability for themselves.
Yep.
The more you get like that, you eventually, not that any of us are there, but maybe become an enlightened master if you spend enough time with yourself.
Yeah.
And then you're probably the most interesting person in the world to everybody.
Yeah. Well, then you attract people that are like-minded as well, because but a law of attraction, you attract similar things. So when you become like that, you attract. And I noticed it as well. I find some amazing, interesting people that I come into contact with, and they become more and more interesting the more you get to know them. It's absolutely beautiful. Yeah. Another point I'd like to talk about is where we come from. We come into this life. We each have a passion. Yes, we share mostly the same DNA on the physical plane, but we each have a soul. And that soul is linked to a passion, things that intrigue us individually. Parkour would not intrigue everyone. Like, so playing a guitar might intrigue someone more. Playing a guitar intrigued me, but I didn't have that spark within me where I wanted to do it every day the way I did parkour. So for me, that was my gift. That was my soul was combined with body movement, and when I saw people doing it, it always amazed me, and I wanted to do that from my childhood. So I seek that, and I followed my heart with that, and I followed my intuition, and it led me to be able to make a living off that and to be able to spread the message and meet other people that felt similarly. So really, I want to say is follow your heart. You came into this life with a soul that has a passion it's attracted to, something that intrigues you so much that you want to do it so often, every day, and follow that. That will lead you down the path. It may not be the end goal. You may move on. Your passions may change along the way, but it will get you to your next step in the way. Mm-hmm. So just follow your passion the whole way. They say follow your bliss. That's one of the best quotes there is. Follow your bliss, and your bliss is different for everyone. But there's a reason you have your bliss. Everyone comes into this world with a talent or a skill or a passion that can help change the world and make it a more positive place. And we have to remember this. When we come into the world, we forget this from the afterlife. In the afterlife, we assess our last life, or whatever. This isn't factual to me, but it's something I believe that I've read, and it makes a lot of sense to me. And you assess, and then you choose to come back into this world, mm-hmm. and your parents influence a lot of things around you. So my sisters are both quite obese, but seeing that around me really struck a chord with me, and it made me look into my diet. So there's a reason for everything around you, and you come into this world. So I saw that, and it really struck a chord with me. It followed this path down to becoming this diet, and this becomes my new passion, taken over from the parkour, and then this might lead me to a new passion, and I'm just going to follow it until it ends. I'm not going to stick with it. If you don't enjoy something anymore, then stop doing it. You don't have to do anything you don't enjoy in this life, and life will reward that if you just have faith and follow your heart.
Yeah, and going back to the key thing that you were talking about earlier, Tim, just about being able to take self-responsibility for everything that's coming into your life, but in the process of doing so, understanding that as you're moving further towards your personal legend, towards your better self, your golden self, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, these obstacles that come along the way are part of the natural process towards making you stronger, towards making you a more refined person, towards creating opportunity for you to be able to see more of yourself and figure out which parts of yourself may not serve you anymore, so you can let go and sort of transmute and allow more room for your authentic self to shine through. And I just think there's a lot of key aspects to that. So at this point, I would just like to say that there's a lot of stuff that we've covered in this episode, and I think if anybody is inspired by this episode, then obviously please share it. And just to cover some basic stuff, going back to the fact that this show is something that we do every week, I do encourage people to check out the website at facebook.com/ParadigmShiftRadio and go check out ParadigmShiftCentral.com, because ParadigmShiftCentral.com is this project that is working towards bringing a whole bunch of people together all across the world and inspiring them to be able to create community where they are, to be able to create Paradigm Shift communities. So, for example, Paradigm Shift London, Ontario, Canada is the one I'm associated with, and then we got Paradigm Shifts all over the place. We actually got one in Paradigm Shift Connecticut, which is Tim, you were born there, from as I understand. So good to know that the energy is still bumping in Connecticut. So again, if people want to get more involved with that, just check out the main website, and we encourage you to do that and to stay connected and to be the change that you want to see in the world. So with 5 minutes left in the show, there was someone who was just recently on the queue. They literally just dropped out. I was about to bring them on, but if anybody would literally like to call in within the last few minutes, there still is that opportunity.
Somebody call in. I want to talk to somebody.
Absolutely, yeah.
Call in, anybody, about anything you want at all.
Anything. So, just as kind of like a little fun thing that we've done here on past episodes of Paradigm Shift Radio, Tim, just as we wrap things up here and wait to see if somebody calls in. If they do, I'll bring them on. I'm gonna pull a few questions here that I'm gonna ask you, and I'd just be curious to hear your response to them in a concise answer. So we'll just kind of, it's kind of like,
I'll be quick.
Yeah, kind of like a lightning round, but doesn't have to be too fast. But just a couple sentences for each answer. So kind of like in theme with like 3 things you would bring to an island. So the first question that I'm going to ask you. Okay, so first question for Tim Keith. Tim Shieff, professional vegan and professional freerunner.
Yeah, baby.
Okay. All right. So Tim, are ghosts real?
I believe orbs are. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Orbs.
Okay.
I think there's something to orbs. Yeah.
Something to orbs. All right. That's definitely something. All right. Have you seen a UFO?
I think so, but I'm not sure. I was staring at a star recently, and I kept seeing light beams flying to it and from it, and I was trying to connect consciously to it, but I'm not 100%. I was like 95% at the time, and I'm not sure now, but I think so.
All right, cool. All right. Should we trust our government?
Ooh, no. Honestly, no. It's a sad story, but they're a bunch of babies. They're a bunch of teenagers trying to flex muscles and not hurt rich people. They're too scared to stand up for themselves. They've got no integrity.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. What's the deal with Sasquatch?
I watched Joe Rogan. I love Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of them are really good.
Show,
yeah, but so in his show, the first episode was Bigfoot, and I've never looked into that one. I don't think it's important really to look into.
Right.
Compared to things like UFOs and chemtrails, I just think Sasquatch is minimal.
All right.
Maybe
good.
it's real, maybe.
Fair enough. All right, okay. I'm going to stop myself there because it looks like that someone is looking to call in and talk to you here. Yeah. So with only 3 minutes left, I'm just going to bring this caller on. So caller from area code 661, we're going to bring you here within the last couple of minutes. So here we go. Hello, caller. Can you hear us? Oh, hey, Paul. Welcome back. Okay, Paul, do you got a quick question or something you want to share with Tim?
Just that I've always loved the parkour, and have followed you, Tim, myself. I sort of do roller skating version and ice skating version, but nice. The whole idea for me is like martial arts. It's a way of expressing your body, and it's a way of personal development, and that's what people need to understand. That's what they've got to get. It's not about showing off, or it's not about jumping or what you do. It's about expressing yourself honestly and truly, as the great Bruce Lee once said.
Yes, I completely agree, Paul. Yeah, that's spot on, man. And you just have to do it. Don't care about what people think, and enjoy it. And you'll attract similar people into your life that appreciate what you do for you as well. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely attract more people. Sorry, Paul, I was going to say, I think we have somebody else who's looking to call in. Do you mind, Paul?
Yeah.
Can I? Okay, cool. Thanks, Paul. All right, so.
See you later, guys.
Well, Paul, we'll talk to you later. All right, thanks. All right, so caller who's calling in from Skype, their name is Sky Sean. We have 90 seconds left. Quick question for Tim if they're looking to come on. Hello, caller, can you hear us?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go for it. You got 90 seconds.
I don't have a question, actually. I just want to say to Tim, I'm from Israel. I just saw today your video about being vegan, the breakfast video, and some other videos, and I wanted to say just thank you about all the inspiration. I really believe in the way of being vegan and get in shape. I'm just at the same path, and how physical fitness really changes your whole day, and giving other people inspiration to do the same. And I can see people, more I talk, see more people getting more interested in fitness and eating right and being vegan. That's amazing.
Amazing.
Nice.
Thank you very much for your kind words. It's amazing to hear people from all over the world, especially someone like Israel, that understand and they get this, and it's so inspiring to me. I really appreciate the words, and I'll continue to do what I'm doing, and together we'll bring more love to the planet, and that really is the end goal, is just to bring people back to a natural state of love, which is what we're born with, but we're so conditioned out of, and we're programmed out of that. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, with that said, I think that's a good point to end on. So thanks, Alon, for calling in the last second there.
Thank
you. We'll wrap this up. And yeah, for anybody just listening to this, be sure to check out facebook.com/ParadigmShiftRadio and ParadigmShiftCentral.com. So again, thank you to Rain. Thank you to Tim. Thanks for Alon for calling in. And thanks for everybody who's been listening to another episode. And obviously, we'll be back again next week. And next week's guest is going to be Laura Eisenhower, the great-granddaughter of Dwight D. Eisenhower, and going to be talking about all sorts of paradigm shifty stuff. Keep an eye open for it on the Facebook page. You'll get more information about there. So we're in the post-show recording moment at this time, so we will just open up another opportunity for Rain and Tim. Any final words to go out on? For Rain, you can start first.
Sorry, I guess I was on mute. I'll just say that return your focus to the biological imperatives that we all need to focus on. Oxygen, breathe deeply, and water, drink more water, try to stay hydrated, and fruit, sugar. Keep your sugar, stay carved up, keep your brain working the way it should be working, and your body and mind will you. Get enough sleep, at least 8 hours, but even 10 to 12 hours is optimal. So sleep, water, sugar, oxygen. And thanks for having me, Brendon.
All right, thanks, Rain. And Tim, final words to go out on.
Follow your heart, man, and just try and live in love. I know how hard it is, and sometimes we get stressed, we get angry, we want to fight, but we know truthfully what's right and wrong, and just try and follow your intuition will always tell you, and it's learning to reconnect to that. And changing your diet really helps your body reconnect to your intuition. You can start to listen to it more. We don't need doctors to tell us. We don't need scientists to tell us what's right and wrong, because science will prove everything to be right and everything to be wrong. And if you look, it comes down to simply learning things for yourself. Fruit is a range of colors for a reason. So if you eat a range of colors of fruit, you get all the nutrition you need. If you eat one color, then you're only going to fill one side of the color pie. So eat fruit and vegetables in abundance, as many different colors as you can, and you will cover all your nutritional needs. It's that simple. Life made it that simple. We decided to complicate it. Animals, there's not a single animal on the planet that eats cooked food that needs science to prove why they should eat this and why they should eat that. They just don't. They just know intuitively and they live it. I mean, it can be that simple for us. We shouldn't need talk shows and websites dedicated to this stuff. We overcomplicate things, but this is the world we live in, and this is what we're going to have to continue to do. So follow your intuition, learn to reconnect with your intuition, and just enjoy life and spread love.
Awesome. All right, so thanks again, guys, for being with us here tonight, and thanks again to our listeners, and thank you to everyone for doing what you're doing, and continue to question within, and continue to stand up for yourself and the other beings on this planet, as we all take those steps towards just reconnecting with what it means to be human and bringing more love into this world. So on behalf of ParadigmShiftCentral.com, Facebook.com/ParadigmShiftRadio, I'm your host, Skull Babylon. You can find me at Facebook.com/SkullBabylon and YouTube.com/SkullBabylon. And of course, check out more of Tim on YouTube. Just YouTube Tim Shieff or Livewire, and you'll find plenty of inspirational videos on his behalf. So guys, just join me in wrapping this up officially as we say farewell and namaste to the internet. Farewell, internets. Take care. Bye-bye. Namaste.
Peace. Namaste.
Yeah.
Love and light to you all.
Awesome. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Brendon.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Paradigm Shift Radio. If you enjoyed this episode and found value in it, then please consider donating to support the creation of more consciousness shifting media at ParadigmShiftCentral.com/donate. Thank you.